Powering our lives with cost-effective and environmentally friendly energy, powering our bodies with the most nutritious food, and enjoying nature's bounty with an eye on the future. I'm Adrian Atkinson, and for about the next 29 minutes, Jamaica Magazine is all about sustainable living. Stick around.
Our Civil Servant of the Year 2013, Entrose Angela Campbell.
This could be your colleague, the hard-working, exemplary civil servant at your office. The civil servant who's a strong professional, someone who goes beyond the call of duty, setting an example for others. Honor this person by nominating him or her for the 2014 Civil Servant of the Year Award. The deadline for nominations is Friday, August 29. For nomination forms and additional information on the award, contact the Employee Relations and Benefits Unit at the Ministry of Finance, Planning and the Public Service. Call 932-5375, 932-5367 or 932-5380. Civil servants, transforming Jamaica with exemplary service.
The National Water Commission (NWC) is now on a drive to rapidly fix leaks affecting the water distribution systems across the island. 2 leak hotlines have been established. Report leaks by calling 733-5655 and 733-5656. You may also send a text to 838-LEAK. That is 838-5325. Remember that a little effort will make a big difference. Be a leak detective. Conserve on water today.
We expect to see approximately 30 to 40% saving in the air conditioning demand for electricity.
More on that soon, but first, let's find out the latest from the news desk.
Good day, I'm Andrea Chisholm and this is your JIS News for Thursday, August 14. The Ministry of Health has confirmed another 4 locally transmitted cases of chikungunya. Director of Emergency Disaster Management and Special Services Dr. Marian Bullock-Ducasse says the positive results were received Wednesday from samples sent to the Caribbean Public Health Agency, CARPA. This brings the total number of confirmed cases for Jamaica to 8, 6 from local transmission and 2 imported. The affected parishes include St. Thomas, St. Catherine, St. Anne, Kingston and St. Andrew. One suspected case at the University of the West Indies is awaiting confirmation from CARPA. Dr. Ducasse says the Health Ministry will continue with its public education and intense vector control activities. And Jamaicans are reminded that although there is now local transmission of chikungunya, individuals can significantly reduce the spread of the disease by limiting opportunities for the Aedes aegypti mosquito to breed. For more information, contact the Ministry's Emergency Operations Center at 1-888-663-5683 or 1-8881-LOVE. 9 rural area schools will be expanded and rehabilitated with $160.5 million in funding from the Caribbean Development Bank. Contracts were recently signed to execute the work on the schools which are located in the parishes of Trelawney, St. Elizabeth, St. James and Clarendon. The work will be under the Community Investment Project and includes replacement of pit latrines, expansion of classrooms and construction of perimeter fencing and play areas among other works.
This investments here speaks to the priority being placed on rural development by government through investment in rural education.
This is consistent with state policy reflected in the Ministry of Education that our rural institutions must get priority. And so it's very, very important that we have appropriate education institutions and that you don't have to travel multiple kilometers to find a good school for your children.
Construction will be carried out by 9 contractors over a period of 4 months. Come next year, there is to be a 15% increase in the stipend offered to early childhood teachers by the government. Education Minister Reverend Ronald Thwaites made the announcement recently during the ministry's Region 1 Back to School Conference in Kingston.
We can raise it by 15%. Again, from our existing resources, there's no more money. Yes, but we are committed to doing it next year and the year after, please God. so that we can bring our early childhood teachers to a level where even those who are trained can stay in the system rather than being forced to leave.
Jamaica's CARICOM partner Trinidad and Tobago has heaped praises on the island's agriculture sector while indicating a desire to strengthen ties between both nations in that arena. Tobago's agriculture representative expressed his desire for a greater partnership during the recent Denby Agriculture Show in Clarendon.
You in Jamaica have achieved something that other Caribbean islands do not, which is food security for the island. As it regards to closer collaboration, well, being here, we will try to form greater ties with the Ministry of Agriculture here in Jamaica and also the Jamaica Agricultural Society.
And finally, sugar workers and their families in St. Thomas can look forward to moving from their barracks into brand new homes by year-end. This was revealed on a recent tour of over 200 housing units that are under construction in the parish through the European Union-funded Sugar Transformation Program. Residents are also being allowed to earn through construction work on the units. Minister with responsibility for housing, Dr. Maurice Guy, says it's an impressive development with units designed for expansion.
In terms of the construction material, construction type, it is certainly something that we're looking at, because as you recognize that these houses are made of block and steel. In other areas of the sector, we're looking at farm building, and we want to see in terms of comparison of cost to see how they can come out. But the biggest push for utilizing this type of construction methodology is the employment of people in the community.
Similar units have already been built and handed over to sugar workers in Westmoreland and Trelawney. The units are free to beneficiaries who are only required to pay for their titles at an average cost of $40,000. And that's it for JIS News today. I'm Andrea Chisholm. Thank you for watching.
Some water with you, please.
Water gone.
But me need water for cook. So how me go wash?
Let's weather the drought. Start conservation measures today. Check for leaks around your house. Opt for shorter showers over long baths. Reuse water to water plants and lawn. Watch the amount of water you and your family use. Try cooking methods that don't require much water. And if you have a vehicle, avoid washing it regularly. Remember, water is as important as the air we breathe. So conserve our water, conserve our life.
There are many ways to practice sustainable living. The important thing is to minimize your use of the Earth's natural resources, as well as your personal resources. Protecting the environment so it can meet your needs and that of future generations is a big benefit. But there are also more immediate, even monetary gains to be had, like cheaper electricity costs from environmentally sound alternative energy sources. And government is leading by example.
Cool roof application, solar window tint, air condition and lighting retrofits.
At any location that we implement this mix of initiatives, we're looking at a 30% reduction in their energy consumption.
And a 30% savings on all government ministries and agencies' energy bill will calculate into millions of dollars in savings. Since 2011, the government has set out to reduce its energy expenditure, and with a grant of $20 million from the Inter-American Development Bank, the Energy Efficiency Conservation EEC program was activated. The program identified areas within the public sector that are to benefit from energy efficiency opportunities. Energy audits were carried out on several government buildings. The findings revealed savings of approximately $100 million if the recommended retrofits are undertaken. This covers 3 areas.
One is the building envelope retrofits, which is to make the buildings less susceptible to heat ingress. The air conditioning retrofits to get more efficient air conditioning, and the retrofit of inefficient lighting.
As the work got off to a start, cool roof application and the tinting of windows were applied to several government buildings, including the Office of the Prime Minister, the National Housing Trust, and the Bureau of Standards Jamaica. The procedure is to significantly reduce the heat on the buildings.
We're in applying the cool roof solution, which is really a highly reflective coating to roofs. And when you take an infrared thermometer and check before and after, the temperature at the surface that is not treated is 121 degrees. The temperature at the surface that is treated is 85 degrees. So you're looking at approximately 35 to 40 degrees difference. And this is in the winter time. In the summer, when the temperature is warmer and the sun is more intense, you're going to find that the temperature difference is going to be larger. So the impact on your energy consumption is going to be significant.
And the savings don't stop there.
The solar film that we have applied to the windows, it's not just color tinting. It will reduce the solar radiation coming through the window by approximately 70 to 80%. And that will have a direct impact on the air conditioning load.
Having done the building envelope retrofits, the air conditioning needs would be considerably lower now that the buildings are much cooler. So the next step is assessing the current air conditioning configuration, and where there is inefficiency, corrective measures are taken.
And if we can replace many of the current old inefficient units, we expect to see approximately 30 to 40% saving in the air conditioning demand for electricity.
In addition to replacing the units, part of the Energy Efficiency Conservation Program is the implementation of a management system that will automatically turn off or lower the temperature on air conditioning units when no one is occupying the room, and do the same for lights. The aim is to use cooling and lighting only where it is absolutely necessary.
We want to have the system be able to ramp from almost 0 to 100% based on the demand. And those are the kind of techniques that this project is bringing to the table to avail the public sector of a new paradigm in terms of energy efficiency.
Serious about cutting its electricity bill significantly, the government also set out to address the need for more efficient lighting across government entities.
That we will convert from incandescent and some inefficient fluorescent to LED and more efficient lighting.
With all these drastic changes, public sector workers were brought on board to promote the conservation of energy within their respective ministries and agencies. Some of the behavior changes they are promoting include
not using the elevator if you're going just up one floor, turning the air conditioning unit up, turning off the lights if you're not using it, using your screensaver on the computer so you don't leave the screen on and have it running all the time, turning the computer off if you're going out for a long while.
Officers with responsibility for energy management were also trained in areas such as the importance of energy conservation to national development, the impact on the performance of government entities, and workers' role in managing government's energy assets and resources. These officers will now be able to evaluate their ministry or department's energy usage and effectively monitor and take the necessary corrective action.
We need to put in place a sustainable system for this kind of behavior change, because ultimately what we want is to have a national energy reduction target, and it is those persons who are trained that would I expect to be the vanguard for that.
The government, through the Energy Efficiency Conservation Program, is bent on making the public sector an energy-conscious model for the rest of the society.
The government will be the guinea pig. And having been the guinea pig, we can say, we have been there, we see the impact. And the impact is economic enough for you to go boldly and do the same thing. And if everybody in Jamaica adopts the principle that we're talking about, not just the government now with our $13 billion bill, but the whole of the country, we can now have our energy more efficiently used and our money available for other more productive things.
Finger-licking jerk chicken, Helcher fish and bami, will run down yam and banana, roast breadfruit, sweet potato pudding. Jamaica food sweet. So let's make a pledge to use more local produce and less foreign goods. Let's grow what we eat and eat what we grow.
You get out what you put in. This applies to so many things, but let's talk about food. Part of sustainable living has to be about making the best use of nature's resources to produce the foods that will best fuel our bodies for optimal performance. And we here in Jamaica are pretty lucky because the options are bountiful.
The Jamaicans are running away with the event. Can Trinidad and Tobago take the second spot? Asafa Paul, Jamaica, gold, 37.10. World record!
Born and fed in Jamaica, homegrown athletes sustained by the foods of the soil, enriched to reach international heights of glory.
This is a fabulous moment in Jamaican and Caribbean track and field history.
An agricultural sector steeped in a tradition of excellence, ripe for expanded production, energized to tap into new markets. A nation of champions. Food. For most, that probably means the broad label for just about every edible item we humans consume. Now, Jamaicans fully agree to this, but in the lingua of the island, food is also a specific term for the side dishes that accompany the main course of Jamaican meals. You might also hear them called ground or grung provisions, yam, potato, sweet or Irish, dasheen, cocoa, cassava, and others that are staples of the island's agricultural output. Farmers, supported by government and strong private groups, plant and harvest these crops for the discerning Jamaican consumer and a reliable export market. As the world marvels at the lightning speed of the likes of Usain Bolt and Veronica Campbell-Brown, many have asked, is it in the food? Perhaps the yellow yam?
969. When we roast the yellow yam, when we roast the yellow yam, and we slice it in a two, and we slice it in a two.
The skin is brown, sometimes black, and some say scaly. Peel away the outer layer and get to the heart of its starchy goodness. There you'll find fulfillment and a taste that is as distinctive as the indescribable talent of our trailblazing athletic stars. More importantly, in the heart of our yams are essential nutrients for healthy living: vitamins C and B6, potassium, manganese, fiber, and iron. These nutrients converge in several varieties of the Jamaican yam, a tuber with off-white, purple, white, yellow, and sometimes red flesh, depending on the variety. For every type of yam, there is a uniquely Jamaican name, like renta, yampi, moonshine, or afu. Whatever the name, they're all edible, just so long as you cook them first. And with thousands of acres of fertile land, yam production is an island-wide vocation in Jamaica. But you might be surprised, or not, to know that the most popular yam-producing parish, Trelawney, is also the home of the world's fastest man.
Corrected to 969. The relax. Usain Bolt. Tremendous running by this man.
Daylight come and me want go home. Work all night.
From jerk to curry recipes, Jamaican cooking is all about the spices, sourced right on the island. With the support of the state entity responsible for managing all things agricultural, the Ministry of Agriculture and Fisheries, Jamaica's spice producers are on the verge of stamping a bolder mark on the competitive international industry, with many programs unfurling to increase the production of traditional spices like ginger, turmeric, nutmeg, and pimento, and non-traditional spices such as hot peppers and onion. And the possibilities are bountiful. Take ginger and turmeric, for example. Both grow with relative ease almost anywhere on the island. In fact, travel to some places in Jamaica and you can find turmeric growing wild, unfettered by any environmental condition that could stunt its growth. Whether for use as a condiment, for its healing properties, or simply for coloring, consumers worldwide can't seem to get enough turmeric. Global trade in turmeric has been trending up, and so have prices. As for Jamaican ginger, it has long been considered among, if not the best in the world. Current global demand for Jamaican ginger is estimated at 21,000 metric tons in its fresh form and 4,200 tons dried, and there's room for growth. Jamaica is a tiny giant in the world of agro-processed foods. Island producers are dishing out big, unique flavors, employing ingenuity and utilizing the support of state agencies to steadily eke out more of the international market for these goods. Jamaican companies like Central Food Packers are making a mark on this agricultural offshoot, exporting quality canned, bottled and baked foods to markets in North America, the United Kingdom, Canada and the Caribbean. Included in the mix are mild to spicy hot sauces, jams and jellies, a must if you want to proclaim your Jamaicanness. Ackee, delivered to you in a can, and for a bit of green delight, callaloo canned in brine. Then there are some unique Jamaican spreads for your breads and biscuits, like a dab of Solomon Gundy or a spoonful of delicious mango, sorrel or tamarind chutney. And let's not forget the roots wines. Jamaica's value-added agro-processors are engaged in other sweet pursuits. Companies like Honeykiss are churning out all-natural honey confections. As they'll tell you, and you can taste for yourself, pure Jamaican wildflower honey is infused with just a choops of natural unique fruits, vegetables and spices, ginger, Blue Mountain coffee, pimento, allspice, Scotch bonnet pepper. Sweet, aromatic, rich, strong are entirely inadequate labels. Have a taste of authentic Jamaican honey, and what you'll get is a pure, honest flavor, aroma and taste, and medicinal benefits that make healthy living absolutely enticing. So, what's your delight? Whatever it is, Jamaican farmers and end producers are uniquely and creatively positioned to deliver. In this land of wood and water, champions are not just made for the tracks, they're also found in the fields and in the shopping carts of discerning consumers the world over.
That can easily change if we allow the cutting of trees, forest fires, animal grazing, crop cultivation, or improper dwellings to destroy our forest reserves. Help preserve Jamaica's flora and fauna. If you know or suspect that someone is hurting our forest reserves, call 1-888-FORESTS. Remember, protecting our forests means sustaining our lives.
So far, we've seen ideas to cut our energy costs and a very small sample of Jamaica's nutritious food options. But what of how we operate in the island's outdoor spaces? If we abuse nature, it's a given our quality of life will be less than optimal. So we're hitting the sands next to explore one of the most loved but misused byways in nature.
In preserving our environment as much as possible. That's the reality.
Jamaicans love going to the beach, hardly surprising since we are a tropical island people. But we aren't the only fans. Among its many offerings, Jamaica's tourism landscape owes much to the appeal of our many miles of white sand beaches. Yet, although these gems of nature offer us both a place to play and earn, all too often, this is how we treat them.
From diapers to container covers, plastic bottles, bags, you name it, it's out here.
According to the US-based nonprofit environmental advocacy group Ocean Conservancy, our oceans sustain us with the basic elements of life, producing half of the oxygen in the air we breathe and serving as an essential part of the water cycle. Beaches are the frontier of this essential resource, providing habitat and nesting grounds for important ocean wildlife like sea turtles and seabirds, and helping to sustain complex coastal economies. It's why local organizations like the National Environment and Planning Agency and the Urban Development Corporation regularly organize exercises to clear our beaches of the debris so carelessly discarded.
The objective is really, most importantly, to raise the awareness amongst the general population about how our everyday activities affect our coastal resources, because what we find is that when we dispose of garbage improperly, it ends up right back on the beach.
Don't litter, don't throw garbage in the sea, in the rivers, in gullies and stuff. Just keep the environment clean.
Because we want a clean environment to come in and play and swim.
Polluting our beaches with trash is not just an eyesore. It affects the health of people, wildlife, and economies. And what we do on land invariably ends up in the water. The result could be injury to swimmers and beachgoers, wildlife being harmed from eating or getting trapped in the garbage, boat propellers being ensnared, and tourists seeking more pristine environs to vacation.
It's very important because if all the garbage washes away into the sea, the marine animals will choke and they will die. It will cause pollution.
The beaches are nature's gift to us, offering up a relaxing environment to get away from the stressors of life, enjoy them, and allow others to do the same.
So that's about all we have time for today. Hope you are inspired to practice a sustainable way of life. For other ways to do that, check out some of our other shows. They're on YouTube and our website, jis.gov.jm. Real time, we're here every day around this time on this station. And we want to hear from you, so connect with us through our Twitter, Facebook, and email accounts. I'm Adrian Atkinson. Do take care.
This has been a production of the Jamaica Information Service, the voice of Jamaica.